Dreams can make you cry. Dreams can make you laugh.
Hello everyone, it's Lilac Dreams and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a Q&A for my series, The Last Pegasus. I finished this series about probably 2 months ago at this point, and I asked all of you for any remaining questions you have about the series for me to answer in this video. Hi, I was wondering about Sunset's history, her parents/family. Yeah, so Sunset does have a backstory. I did write her one, but you don't get to see much of her backstory in the whole series. The main thing that you see about her history and backstory is her friend. We don't actually learn much about her or her parents and what happened after her friend left. And she definitely has a really, really big backstory, and a lot of stuff has happened to her in her past that isn't really explained in the Last Pegasus series. And the reason behind that is mostly just because I didn't really know where to implement it. During Sunset and Faith's journey, they are very preoccupied doing other things, so I didn't think it would be a good idea to bring up her backstory in any of the episodes. That being said, I do really want to share her backstory eventually, and I actually have plans to share that backstory in a very rough draft of a season 2, which, by the way, I want to say I don't know for sure if a season 2 is coming out, but, you know, I was brainstorming and discussing Sunset's backstory was in my brainstormed notes. She has a sad backstory, okay? But I want to share it with you guys eventually, but now is not that time. As far as what I can tell you about her backstory, her parents, she doesn't have any because they died. But what I can tell you, I guess, about her isn't necessarily actually about her, but just a plan that I had in the early makings of the series was to actually have her childhood friend not be her friend, but actually be her twin brother or her brother. But I actually scrapped that idea just because I felt that making it her friend just worked better. Another thing that I can tell you about her backstory is that when she got Faith off the street, she was indeed planning on, you know, like stealing from her and then trying to turn her in for a bounty. She was not just trying to be nice and friendly. She was very much so trying to get some money. The next question is, did Faye's fake mom have siblings? So it actually took me a little while to figure out what to say to this question, because originally I didn't plan on her having siblings. And when I read this question, I'm like, that's a good question. Does she have siblings? But now that I did some brainstorming for season 2 and a little bit more into who Faith's fake mother actually is, I can confirm no, she doesn't have any siblings. What happened to Faith's mother? I'm assuming you're asking about the fake one, because we do see a reunion with her real mom at the end of the series. And Rose, I missed you. Is this... No. It can't be. Hi, Mom. But as for her fake mom, is still looking for her. She ended up going back to the house and realizing that Faith was not there and now wants to find her. And that will be, again, explained more in season 2 if there is one. Which episode is your favorite and why? This is a great question. I had to think a lot about this, but I think I'm going to have to answer with episode 8. And the main reason that episode 8 is my favorite is just because it really shows an increase in quality from episode 1 to episode 8. I really enjoyed doing the sound effects, and I really enjoyed just seeing the final product and building the sets for that episode. It was just so fun, and it was really hard to film, and it was kind of frustrating when things weren't working out how they were supposed to, but in the end, yeah, episode 8 is definitely my favorite, just because it shows such a huge increase in quality from episode 1 to episode 8. You can really see how much I've grown throughout the filming of this series, and how much better I've gotten at what I do. The next question is, what episode was the hardest to film? I don't think there was a specific episode that really was the hardest to film, but I definitely had a lot of issues filming anything with an outdoor scene. So the winter scene at the beginning of the series and all of the outdoor scenes, anytime they were outside, anytime I had to go outside to film, was really, really difficult. And there's a lot of factors that contributed to that, but a lot of it is just weather. You know, it's going to be really hot, it's going to be really cold, it's going to be raining, it's going to be snowing. It makes it hard to know when to film, and you have to plan ahead. If this video is coming out next week and I need to get these clips filmed, when am I going to do it, you know? And another thing about filming outside is I can't use the original sound because the birds are screaming and the wind is roaring, and, you know, I have to voice over everything, and I just have to carry all this stuff outside, and then I have to clean all the ponies afterwards because they get super dirty, and, you know, my cat's trying to knock over my sets constantly. But yeah, every clip outside was definitely super hard to film. Obviously the inside ones I had to build sets and stuff, but outside was definitely the hardest because I had to find a location, and then, you know, it was just hard. It took a lot more work than the other clips. The next question is, who is your favorite character in the series? This is a good question, and honestly, it took me a little while to figure it out. The main characters are obviously Faith and Sunset, so out of those two, I'm gonna have to say Sunset's my favorite just because I know her backstory. As for you guys, I want to know who your favorite character is, not just out of Faith and Sunset, but out of like all the characters in the whole series. I would love to know who your favorites are, so make sure to let me know in the comments. How long does it take you to edit the whole thing? Well, this question is kind of hard to answer because obviously I didn't time myself editing it or anything like that. And I also didn't edit it all in one go. I edited each episode separately. But if I had to guess, I would say it took an average of 2 to 3 hours per episode. I don't know how accurate that is, but it's just kind of my estimate. But yeah, it took a while to edit everything. That was definitely kind of a lengthy process in the series, was the editing. But I do like it how it turned out, so I don't regret it. Who is Sunset's childhood friend in the video? Well, there's not much to know about her. Her name's Rosie, and her and Sunset were friends when they were kids until she left with the rest of the Pegasi. She also disappeared with the rest of the Pegasi. This impacted Sunset a lot. But yeah, her name is Rosie. As for her making another appearance in a season 2, if there is one, I don't think we will be seeing much of her. Like Sunset said, she's grown and Rosie hasn't. Rosie is still 3 years old and Sunset is like 21. So, you know, they obviously couldn't have a friendship again. Well, I mean, they could, but it might be a little awkward. Okay, this next question might take a little while to answer. Any recommendations to any other MLP tuber that wants to create a series? Yes, I learned a lot through the whole series, and I think you can probably notice that. I don't know if you guys notice as much as I do, but I learned a lot throughout this series. What I can tell you, just a few tips that I can think of off the top of my head, is make sure you have a theme for your series. When I started filming the series, I didn't really know what my theme was, and it wasn't until episode 2 and 3 that I wanted it to be a fantasy style series, and then I started using, you know, like Celtic music and music that sounded very fantastical, and, you know, adding the bird sound effects helped a lot with just setting the scene of each place. But I think knowing what you want your series to be really helps. I've had some failed series in the past. For example, Destiny, which I never finished because I just wasn't in love with the plot and the story. I didn't connect with it the way that I did The Last Pegasus. And it's very different in how I felt making the series. So I think making sure that you know what you want the series to be and you have a set plot and you know your characters really, really well. That's really important, is knowing your characters. I didn't know my characters very well in Moonstone or Destiny, and I think that really held me back from my full potential, the full potential of both of those series. I didn't know what style I wanted the series to be. You know, they're a mix of different genres and they just don't really make much sense. And having a good plot is really important too. And I want to make a video on how I created plots, or how I create plots. I don't use the normal scripting, a normal script like most people do, but I'll talk about that a little more once we get to another later question asking about how long it took me to write the script. I'll talk a little bit more about how I do my scripts. But yeah, I think those are the main tips I can give you. is just know your characters and know what you want the series to be like and know your story really well, because if you don't know those things, it's going to be really hard to create a series, and I learned that the hard way. The next question is, will we have another series? I don't know, honestly. I wasn't expecting to make this series, so who knows if I'm going to make another, honestly. As of right now, no, and the main reason for that is I'm going back to school. I'm going to be really busy. I might work on something during the summer, but maybe not, because I don't think I can get an entire series out just in a couple months. So we'll see. I do want to make a season 2, maybe eventually, if I can figure out my whole story situation, because I'm having some issues with a good story for season 2. But as of right now, no series is planned, but that might change in the future. What was your main inspiration for the series? This is another good question, but to be honest, I didn't have much of a main inspiration, honestly. Obviously, Tangled plays a part into the series, and as for a main inspiration, I really didn't have one. I was just kind of walking outside, like on a walk, when I randomly thought of the concept, the opening scene of the whole series. What is it again? The opening scene where they talk about magic disappearing. I just randomly thought of that, and then all of a sudden I couldn't stop thinking about it, and the plot just got bigger and bigger and bigger until it was a whole story, and I just had to make it, so I did. Does Faith have any siblings? No, she does not have any siblings. Yeah, she's an only child. Will Sunset and Faith ever get married? No. You might have answered this in the series, but I can't remember, so why did Faith's mom, the evil one, steal Faith in the first place? Yeah, I did answer this in the series, but I can answer it again if you want me to. So Faith's mom stole her because she knew that Faith could be able to deactivate the crystal, and that is why she stole her. So yeah, it's a pretty simple answer, but there you go. So you said in the last episode that Faith and Sunset's story isn't over yet. Does that mean you might make another season in the future? So as you know, throughout the whole video, I have been referring to a very rough draft of season 2. But I want to say that this isn't confirmed yet. My very rough draft of season 2 is just some words on a paper of basic plot points that the series would contain, and how those could even work haven't even been figured out yet. So basically the only bit of information or even brainstorming I've thought of season 2 is just a couple plot points. So as of right now, no. But there might be one. I'm not saying that there isn't going to be one, but I'm not saying that there is either, because I just don't know how it would work yet. I was never planning on doing a season 2. It was just supposed to be 5 episodes, and then that's it. There is a bit of a cliffhanger, and it was supposed to stay that way. But we'll see how the series does in the long run. If all the episodes end up doing really well and everyone wants a season 2, then yeah, I'll eventually make one, but it'll probably be a while. The last question is, how long does it take to write the script? So I said I would talk a little bit about my script writing process. I don't write a full script, and this is different. And this is different than how a lot of people do things. In the Moonstone series, I didn't have a script. I had what I wanted to have the series to end and how I wanted the series to start, and a couple plot points, but that was about it. For Destiny, I did have a script. Everything was written out, but I didn't like it that way. So what I personally do is I make a full outline, not just a beginning and an end like I did with the Moonstone series, because that doesn't end up working very well. I had an outline, like a full outline. I had a beginning, an end, a middle, and then lots of different plot points for each episode. So a plot point of the overarching what an episode would be about, and then plot points within that episode. I'm planning on making a video on my entire plot writing process in the future, because it's kind of different and unconventional than other people's, but I can grab one of my scripts from the Last Pegasus to just kind of show you how I plan things. There we go. So the first plot point is Nightmare, and then we've got some plot points on that plot point. Snow wakes her up. How did you faint is something that Sunset says. Most of these only really make sense to me. My scripts, if you will, are not written out like most people's. And the reason why I do it like this is because I feel that it's easier to improvise dialogue than it is to write dialogue. I am not very good at writing dialogue in a way that flows well. Why do I keep banging the piece of paper? This is why I'm not good at writing, like, stories, because I'm not good at making it sound natural, which is why I prefer to improvise it. And eventually I do want to get better at actually writing dialogue, but it's going to take me a little while to get there. For now, this works really well because I know the scene. I know what my scene is, and then I just improvise it. How did you faint? That is a scene. That is a scene, and I just improvised the words. I did have, I did go over the words a few times. So I did practice, like talk into nowhere, just kind of narrating everyone talking, and just kind of say the words that I wanted to be said, and then. So I practiced them a few times, but yeah, this is basically what my scripts look like. Here's episode 8. It's only half of it, but there's episode 8. Obviously the sign thing didn't happen. I ended up changing that just because I didn't like that, so I changed it very last minute. Like, this was my final script, and I changed it. So here is the rest of episode 8, if you want to just read that real quick. So yeah, that's how I do my scripts. So writing scripts doesn't take very long, but brainstorming scripts, on the other hand, like brainstorming, the actual brainstorming process takes a lot longer. I did have on my computer, not my computer, what am I saying? I did have on a different notebook that I lost all of the plot points of the series. So I went through multiple scripts. The first outline was very basic, and then it just got more and more detailed until it ended up being episodes written out like that. So it took a long time, but it wasn't really a script. It's different. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's just kind of how I do it, and it just works for me. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm sorry it was kind of long. I hope that I got all of your questions answered. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you haven't already, watch the Last Pegasus series. Episode 1 already has over 1,000 views. Yay! Episode 2 does not, so, that's okay. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye, everyone!